From iRacing's virtual Darlington Raceway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 9 of the 2024 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Well, Agnell Phillips' championship defense has continued with season dominance thus far, but the 5-time race winner has got his hands full tonight as we get set for a dance track too tough to tame. And as always, happy that you're spending your Monday evening with us right here on RaceSpotTV. Alongside myself, Evan Pistocco, joined by Josh Lee in the RaceSpotTV booth. And even though it is not our official throwback week, Josh will see some throwback paint teams out there in the field. Drivers get into the Darlington spirit, but again, don't let those cheery paint teams fool you. This is a tricky track that's going to challenge you for the best.
Still a lot of creativity in those paint schemes as well, but you hit the nail on the head there, Evan. This track is tricky. It is no reason why this track is named Too Tough to Tame, why it's the Lady in Black, and we're going to see around 20 drivers go dancing with her tonight. You better not get bit, though, because this is the road to the playoffs. We're about halfway through this regular season, and this will be the last track on the schedule before the playoffs. So these drivers need to nail this track if they want to walk away with a playoff berth by the end of the season. But the points look the way of Agnell Phillips right now. Evan, you were gone for those 2 weeks, and we saw Bradley Burke grab another win. We saw Agnell Phillips grab a win in a thriller finish in Dover going up against Andrew Farinaj. And now we see 3 drivers with race wins this season. Farinaj still knocking on the door of that first win in many a months. But right now, the cut line, Austin Coop in by about 6 over Braden Whitaker, with Brett Larson, Chris Treppa, DeAndre Kane, and more down from there, having a little bit more work to do before they go racing in the playoffs.
It really has been a tale of 2 seasons thus far. We started with 3 different race winners in the first 3 races. Agnell Phillips, Minazzi Major, and Bradley Burke winning in Daytona, Atlanta, and Las Vegas. And then since then, we have seen 2 different drivers win the last 6. Let's talk, though, about this Darlington Raceway located in Darlington, South Carolina. Opened back in 1950, 1.36 miles in length. It gets that distinct shape where turns 1 and 2, a wider turning radius than 3 and 4 because of the middle pond, in which the owner refused to sell. There it is, just off the left-hand side of your screen. They tighten things off in turn number 4. That is not the only thing, though, that makes Darlington so unique, and is that from the blimp shot here, this looks like a wide racetrack. The reality, though, quite the opposite.
Yeah, everybody's going to be running right up next to that wall up on the outside of the racetrack, and you'll be able to see when we go on board here with some of the drivers that are taking times in qualifying. This is Sam Nieto going out for lap number 1. That you can see those painted hash lines in white as he goes down the Boeing back straightaway and into turns 3 and 4. There come those hash marks. And turns 3 and 4, you're going to need to be on the brakes as hard as you possibly can to get those cars slowed down. Turns 1 and 2, you can arc them a little bit. You're going to see these drivers go underneath the hash lines even to get a better run into the corner. You hear a little bit of a downshift from Nieto right up against that wall. This is where it's fastest. Get out of the gas just a little bit, set up for turn 2. Much like the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it really is turn 1, turn 2, and then turns 3 and 4 you can kind of treat as one corner. It's a little bit more normal. You can treat it as an apex as Sam Nieto gets up into the wall. I don't think it's the first time we're going to be seeing these drivers get up into the outside wall, but remember, in qualifying, Evan, that is going to disallow his time.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is going to not allow the time. He's going to have to put everything in the bucket of lap number 2. They get 2 timed laps, fastest of which will set the grid for qualifying. Nieto, with about a minute left, is going to be able to complete this lap. Does he back it down a little bit, though? See how much lower he was that time in 3 and 4. I'm not going to say mailing in the lap, Josh, but certainly just wanting to make sure he got a lap in. 13 cars with time. He'll be number 14. Where does he end on the chart? P2. So even that conservative 3 and 4 puts Nieto's second best, 29.041 overall. I was not expecting that given that line.
Taking a look now at Ross Cato as Nieto goes to P2. The only driver within the 28-second bracket. No surprise, it's Agnel Phillip in the number 94 who sits with that lap time. But across the line goes Ross Cato. He puts in a 29.6. It's only going to be good enough for P14. Let's see what he's got on this second run. Throwback pink paint scheme in the Fast Forward Esports Ford Mustang. I can tell it's a throwback really because of the number, but it is just a solid, what would you say, salmon pink Ford Mustang on that number 12 as he dives it into turns 3 and 4 to try and improve on that 29.6. Will he improve is the question. Cross the line. 29.338. He does improve, not by a lot. He'll sit P11 as the clock unceremoniously is going to wind down, and that's going to be the end of qualifying.
There's not a lot of a buffer for drivers to get a lap time in. If they weren't able to, only 15 cars up to take a time at qualifying. Means we'll see some drivers starting on provisional. With that, though, the qualifying session, to your point, has come to an end. Let's go trackside. Take a look at your starting grid here tonight from Darlington. And there is no surprise that it is the 5-time race winner this season, Agnel Phillip, on pole in the A51 Pro X Alta Chevrolet. Is 28.955 best of them all. Sam Nieto, that clutch second lap, puts the Flat Out Esports number 2 in P2 on the grid. Andrew Freenage will start to the inside around number 2 and 3rd. Can he break through for his first win of the season? Cody Harris looking for the same. He'll start alongside in 4. And on row number 3, 5th tonight on the grid is Michael O'Raya. And P6, a real good start for the 56 car. That's Jason Landry.
Back from there, Brandon Gass going to start P7. Thomas George going to start in P8. Bradley Burke, Maverick Davis going to share that 5th row, rounding out the top 10. Ross Cato with a little bit of troubles in qualifying. He'll start P11. Jaron Weinmaster is going to start in P12.
That gives lucky number 13 to Matt Danson, the teammate to your pole sitter tonight, Agnel Phillip. But Austin Major starts alongside in 14th. DeAndre Kane will start from 15th tonight alongside Austin Coop in 16th. Coop going to be the first driver without a time at qualifying to start by a provisional. Dalton Randolph and then Cam Patterson. They'll make up row number 9.
And running out your field of drivers here, Eric Papineau, Brett Larson going to be 19th and 20th, Mike Maddox, and then Steve Soa going to start at the tail end of the field. Those drivers not taking a time in qualifying. But as we take a look at the weather here in Sim, relatively cool day here in Darlington, South Carolina. Not exactly the day it was when I came to the Southern 500 in 2016. I think it was about 100, felt like 110 on some of these afternoons. 69 degrees Fahrenheit in the air, 99 degrees Fahrenheit on the track. Gonna help a little bit in the grip department, but still, this track is going to eat these tires for breakfast. And already, Evan, we're getting ready to get to the start of this thing.
We are 147 laps on the board, and we're happy that you're spending your night with us here on RaceSpotTV. Pace car down and in. Agnel Phillip in control as we say, let's go racing at Darlington.
Andrew Freenage has already turned. He is into the inside wall in the Boeing back straightaway. No caution, we stay green. But from second place all the way down to P21, Freenage is out of this race as the battle for the lead heats up. Sam Nieto goes to the top spot.
Freenage has been on pole 2 of the last 4 weeks. Tonight he's going to end it with a DNF on the hook. But to your point, no yellow, we stay green. And new race leader, the 2 is Sam Nieto, and we're not done yet. Here goes Lariah down to the inside. He'll clear the 94 car. And Agnel Phillip started on pole. He didn't get the end of lap number 1 up front. He gets a bonus point for that, but already falls to P3.
As Nieto takes the lead and tries to pull away now from Lariah and Phillip behind. Cody Harris is all over his back bumper now, the number 94. What on earth happened to Andrew Freenage? Honestly, Evan, it just kind of looks like a classic Darlington stack up. You can see the exit of the corner. Nieto gets the better of him along the outside. Freenage Little bit of contact with Cody Harris. Looks like he might have got a little bit loose off of 2 as well. And that leads to heavy contact and heavy damage down on that inside retaining wall on the Boeing back straightaway. I'm not 1,000% sure why the caution was not called. They looked to be in prime position for a yellow flag. Technically speaking, it was off of the racing line. But a very tough break for Andrew Farinaj. Not just the damage, but not even getting a yellow flag to boot off of that. He is still in the pits trying to get that damage repaired already 3 laps down.
Yeah, I think for Farinaj, in the end, I don't think the yellow's going to matter for him because that car is so heavily damaged. But to your point, historically, Darlington, I would say, is got a pretty tight whistle when it comes to those automatic cautions being thrown on the back straightaway just because there's not a ton of space down there. You saw on the replay, Farinaj came back up the track to within about, say, 10 feet or so of the cars actively driving by on the outside line of the racetrack. Instead, we continue on and watch the battle up front. Lariah had closed in on the Yetto for a moment, backed off now. And if you're in the camp of Agnell Phillip, I don't think it's time to worry. I'm not all that shocked that he allows the Yetto and Lariah to go. I say allow because he really didn't fight them all that much. This is Agnell Phillip MO. Don't push early in the run. Save your stuff for a long run. We've been talking about it all year long, Josh. These races with only about low to mid 20 for the car counts means we're likely to have long green flag stretches. It's what a lot of these drivers say they've enjoyed most about the races this season is how long the green flag stretches go and how that strategy can play in. And I would be very surprised if in 50 laps, Agnell Phillip is dropping back. I think this is all part of the 94 strategy that's worked very well for him so far.
He's still pulling away from the group behind as we take a look back. Brandon Gass, Maverick Davis, all of these drivers in about a line right behind Cody Harris. This is Jason Landry, Thomas George, Brandon Gass, Maverick Davis, all within this kind of stack up from around 4th on back. And you can see Agnell Phillip in front of this group, move to the inside on Thomas George, and that very familiar looking Valvoline number 6 to the inside that he goes looking for that spot on Jason Landry. As Landry in that Toyota Camry up on the outside line, side by side behind him, Maverick Davis and Brandon Gass go side by side. Off to that's treacherous, and you see that contact made. Everybody wants to kind of blend up the racetrack off too. There's kind of a magnet in that wall off the exit of 2. Cars love to go up and slam it, much like at the Dover Motor Speedway that we saw 2 weeks ago. It issues for Maverick Davis in the 15. He goes way down to the bottom of the racetrack on the front straightaway. He'll stay underneath for the moment. Contact to the wall, contact to another car, but he keeps it straight, and we stay green. A very, very rough moment there for Maverick Davis. He'll fall to P15.
Sure, that was his grand plan when he wanted us to see the beautiful throwback paint scheme he's got on that 30 car, but it is still a struggle for him. No yellow, we stay green, but that car still bouncing off the walls further back in traffic. You see Davis and other drivers now in a battle for about 50 or so on back. Eric Capitow in the 17th car right there as well. Throwback paint scheme for the Meineke entry as well. This is all already about 3 seconds off the race lead, but you wouldn't guess it based on how tightly they're packed in. This midfield not separated all. And you jump up now to just inside of the top 10. Look to the inside by the white and light blue number 19. That's Bradley Burke. He's pushing down the front straightaway. That darker blue 56 to Jason Landry. That one for P6 and 7. They're all trying to do their best to not let Sam Nieto get away. They're doing a pretty good job. Look at this pack.
Everybody well within a couple seconds of each other. The gap down to P14 is 2 seconds at the current moment. Goes to really show why this track originally, when it was built, was known as NASCAR's first super speedway, as contact between Jason Landry and Bradley Burke going into turn 1. Burke gets 6th. Landry settles for 7th as we put 12 laps behind us, go on to lap 13. You mentioned Evan Agnell Phillip doing the typical Agnell Phillip strategy, just kind of buying time at the start of this race. we're going to see long green flag runs, but I think more so we are going to see some strategy come into play, specifically with tires. You can make it a long way on fuel. This track is not that long. It's only about 1.3 miles, so you're not going to really burn a ton of fuel out of that fuel tank. What you are going to burn is rubber off of these Goodyear tires. Already on lap 14, these drivers are feeling the effects of the tire wear, especially if they've been pushing. And I have to wonder, has Sam Nieto in the lead been pushing a little bit too much? Is he feeling more effects of tire wear than the rest of the field? Either way, we're looking at pit stops being sooner rather than later, and maybe even running 2 full tire stints before any of these drivers even need to pit for fuel.
And that's why it's such a unique racetrack as well, where the average lap time here pretty slow for a track of this size, just because of how you have to attack this place. To the point I had made about Agnew Phillip not getting poked into pressuring and pushing early, is he's going to try to run his own race. Ironically enough, that's the same reason why Agnew didn't win this race last season. Only one Darlington race on the 2023 calendar, and it was won by Kevin King. King was not lured into driving aggressive early by your pole sitter in that race, Agnew Phillip. King went on to win after leading the lion's share of 154 laps in that one. So Agnew clearly long-term on his mind, but the traffic right behind him, side by side in a battle for fourth. It's Harris to the outside, George to the inside, and they're going to touch now. The 28 car sideways in front of the field, and there's an accident with Cody Harris. A couple of other cars get a piece, and that one, I think, may trigger a yellow.
Nothing yet as Cody Harris tries to get that car back straight. He will get it back straight. Barely up to speed now as he gets back going. Contact made with Harris as the lead battle continues. We'll grab a replay of what happened with Cody Harris. Just another big incident here at Darlington. No yellow flag on the speedway. That was contact with the number 6 machine as well. Let's see exactly what has happened to Cody Harris, who was in a solid fight as well, running up in the top of the field as well. Let's see what went on.
And just sideways off of the corner, they were 2 by 2, and it was the slightest touch. And again, the 28 locked it up, coming to a complete stop there. One other driver got a bit of a piece of it, so that secondary car into it does not meet the criteria for race control to step in, but it is a really lack thought of it was so far. That's the second, what I would figure to be a guarantee yellow that was not thrown by the...
To be fair to the automatic iRacing admin who decided that caution was not warranted for that incident, he, other than being off of the racing line and getting himself turned around to try and get back going forward, he was never above the 45 or 90 degree threshold that is required for a yellow flag. So unfortunate situation again, second one that we've seen tonight. But like you mentioned, Evan, no grounds for race control to really step in. See the onboard from Jaron Winemaster. He took a big hit.
He's the second
Nowhere to
car
go.
into it right there, and it completely ripped the front end of that car out. He has already gone to the garage. Winemaster night is done. Just like that, Cody Harris still in the race on pit road. Night effectively done. Just like that, and it continues to have some early attrition here in Darlington, which, in all honesty, I don't think I'd say I'd be shocked by, Josh, if you had told me on the grid I'm predicting 3 cars to be out of this race before we get 25%, but I would have been surprised if you'd mentioned they'd all come from inside like the top 5.
Right now, I think where we're at with this green flag run, those drivers definitely got a little bit scared with that incident. You can see they have all spread themselves out, but Agnew Phillip has made a move up to P2 now. Michael O'Raya made a move, has gone down into P3. Bradley Burke is now joining this top 5 fight. Thomas George is still in it even after that contact. But at the front, Nieto and Phillip. This is where Agnell Phillip tends to start coming alive. We saw the same thing at Dover, another big tire wear sensitive track where Agnell Phillip, beginning of the race, we almost saw none of Agnell Phillip. Then the laps continue on, the run continues on, and we end up seeing Agnell Phillip win the race, albeit by only a couple of feet as the margin, or a couple of pixels in the virtual world, I should say, as the margin. But this is the very typical Agnell Phillip race, and I think this race is going to go right into Agnell Phillip's hands, just like it seemingly always does. Now, Nieto has the speed in that number 2. He knows how to get around this track well. Question is, can he hold on to the lead over these long runs that we're expected to have?
Well, now you'd think if Barney kept the flag in his pocket for those, what would it take to get a yellow? And this certainly provides opportunity for other drivers. In the midfield, Austin Coop had been him, Josh, near the line in the very early look, albeit playoff stand. He's up 7 spots. He's a top 10 car right now at P9. Randolph had a very good start for the rookie. He's up 7 spots to 10. Just because there's some calamity up, does open the door for the driver in the field. Of course, it's important to get those spots early in the race, because remember, bonus points available for all the drivers out of the top 10 waypoint for that midway stage bonus.
Still have a good bit of ways to go before that midway bonus coming in around lap 74, but you are right, Evan. These drivers have to keep that in mind as we see battle for 6th go the way of Jason Landry, battle for 7th about to go the way of Matt Danson. How about that paint scheme? I just noticed the brand new colors on that number 38. I'm very used to that Altus orange that we normally see out of Matt Danson. That is almost the opposite of Altus orange. It's got a little bit of orange hint, but that's more Altus blue and black. What a welcome change to that number 38. Still has the Altus colors on the side, still in that partnership with A51 Pro. But how about that paint scheme for Matt Danson? Of course, the Australian, very familiar running with RSR. We've seen him here many races over many seasons. And I think this is the first time I've seen him in any series outside of that almost all orange number 38. Loving that new paint for Altus Esports on his number 38 Chevy Camaro.
Yeah, I noticed it on the grid. We were taking a look at the starting lineup, and I didn't really mention it because I figured maybe I'd missed it over the course of the last 2 weeks, but that is a good looking number 38 machine for Danton, and he and the 56 car is Jason Landry, the ones doing battle right now. That one for P6 and 7 on the racetrack. Danton, of course, the former Winter Series champion, and wants to continue to bounce back and maybe play spoiler when it comes to this Cup Series title.
And looking at the points, there is a lot of people that can play spoiler. I mean, we've got Andrew Farinage, who unfortunately, after his incident tonight, is still in the pits, and I believe is going to be out of this race for the long run. And unfortunately ending that race on lap 1. But he's still up there. Sam Nieto is well within the cut line for the points as well. Michael Mariah. Thomas George is up there as well. But then you got the drivers that are kind of around that cut line. Steve Soa's around that cut line as well. He's gained a solid amount of spots up, now running in P15 in that number 75. You've got Ross Cato, Austin Coop on the cut line. Eric Papinow's not that many to the good. Unfortunately, Jaron Weinmaster is another one of those drivers that is not too far up to the good, but he is above that cut line. And unfortunately, after his incident as well tonight, not sure how that's going to go for that team. But where we're at right now with the points, a lot of drivers still looking for first wins as well. 5 wins for Agnell Phillip, taking up all but 3 of the other races that we have had this season. Over 50% winning percentage on the racetrack for that number 94 A51 Pro Chevrolet. 2 going to Bradley Burke, 1 at Las Vegas, 1 over at Talladega, and then the other one going to Benazzi Major in a first-time RSR win. And he got that win at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. but the battle for the lead is still on through turns 3 and 4. Nieto ahead of Agnell Phillip. That gap had gone down from where it was at about 6/10 down to about less than 2/10, and it still kind of sits around there. Last time by a 30 flat for Sam Nieto, 29.93 for Agnell Phillip. Little bit faster, but you gotta watch as well. The 29.946 ran by Michael Lariah, who's trying to insert himself into a three-way battle for the race lead.
He wants to join the action and get up into the mix there, as Agnell Phillip has done a good job of closing back in. Now is all over the bumper of Sam Nieto. Nieto enjoyed that early jump. He has led 32, now make it 33. With the 34 laps complete thus far in this race. I think those times may be limited. Agnell Phillip closing into the back bumper. Raya about 0.6 of a second off, and then a battle for 4th on the horizon. That went more than 2 seconds off the battle for the race lead. I think Brandon Gatt, Bradley Burke doing battle back.
I don't think this battle for the lead is going to go really anywhere anytime soon. And the only reason I say that is because we still have a decent amount of ways left in this green flag run that we're looking at, and still have pit stops as well on the horizon that are going to be coming up. I don't think it is monumental for Agnell Phillip to get the lead. Now, if he is quick enough, I think we are definitely going to see him go for a pass. But I don't think it's really end-all be-all right now for the 94 if he does not get the lead over Sam Nieto here. Would he like the lead? Yes. I think that clean air is going to be beneficial for the 94. I've never seen the 94 in clean air not take over the race through every single lap that he is in the lead. However, this is still sitting good for Sam Nieto as long as he can keep Agnell Phillip behind, and he is loose off of turn 4. Normally we see these tires wear, and then we see a ton of understeer and a lot of drivers going up into the wall. Haven't quite seen drivers getting loose off of turn 4 especially. Gotta keep an eye on that number 94 and those lap times as well. Haven't had nearly as much fall off as I was expecting either. Everybody about 6/10, 7/10 lost on their lap times from their best that they have ran in this race.
That's only going to continue the longer this series on. Again, these top two really starting to pull away. We've just no more than, 20 laps to go. Everybody was running together inside of the top 10. Now looking at it, could be a combination of the tires falling off. It could be a little bit of maybe some of those accidents without the yellow was carrying some folks and they backed it down. But this race is now changing and it turning into that little bit of a battle of attrition like we were expecting. Here goes Agnell.
There goes the move to the inside for the race lead. Phillip moves up, contact with the 2. They race their way off of turn 2. Contact with the wall. Nieto trying to knock the catch fence down. Here comes Michael Lariah into the battle as well. Side by side into turn 3. Agnell Phillip on the inside. Sam Nieto on the outside. Be careful off the corner. They keep it straight. Still side by side for the race lead. What does Michael Lariah do? We know you can't go 3 wide at Darlington. He's not even going to bother to try it, but can he insert himself into this lead battle? He's going to try to as he goes under Sam Nieto, who now sits in P2 as the entire line starts to catch up to Steve Soa, last driver left on the lead lap.
Soa's done a good job of staying out of trouble. That's kind of an objective most raised, not on a topic conversation. Spots by default, and in doing up 7, one of the movers on the he does drop a lap down. Those 4 race leaders pass by.
And there goes Agnell Phillip. He has checked out. That is 6/10 in the matter of a lap that he has now just pulled away from this group. Nieto, Lariah, and now Brandon Gass, who amidst all that battle for the race lead has caught up to this group and will work his way past the 44 of Michael Lariah, put the 20 into podium positions into P3. This second place battle has heated up. Battle further back. This is Maverick Davis side by side with Bradley Burke, and Burke has fallen off from where he was. He is now back to even in P9. Not the best night going for Bradley Burke. Had a really good start, was running up towards the front of the pack, and now has just fallen himself way down in the order to P9. The Get Wet Esports Chevy Camaro will try and get himself back up towards the front, but back to the back straightaway goes Sam Nieto, Brandon Gass, Michael Araya in this battle for P2. It's going to stay relatively calm as Gass loses a bit of time. Here comes Laraya to his back bumper. Nieto going to hold on to P2 off the corner, but he does not get a good run off. Here comes Brandon Gass to the inside. Difference of 2/10 in between those lap times. Last time by, Gass almost runs Nieto out of room up top, but off of turn 2, that'll be all number 20 into P2. And this battle just gets even closer as now the 44 goes to the inside of Sam Nieto for P3.
And here's where Sam Nieto needs to make sure it doesn't just all fall apart here at once, but the two cars slipping and sliding, and now this time by all the way down to the number 4 spot. It's the lowest we have seen Nieto all night long thus far. But it's not going to be bad, right? If we can maintain P4, no love lost. But if this car continues to drop, if Danson, if Coop, if Davis, if Landry, if they all continue to catch up, then it is certainly a case of pushing too hard early. And not to toot my own horn, but looking into the crystal ball, Agnew Phillip finds himself back up front. That's exactly what we thought we'd see.
And we see pit stops from a couple of the drivers further back in the pack. This is Austin Coop in the 53. That comes in. Steve Soa is also going to elect to pit here. So lap 47. This is going to be kind of making their bed within that 2-stop strategy. I think it's still a little bit early to go for a 2-stop. I would have tried to hold off for about 3 more laps, but where they're at now, this is going to be within that window of a 2-stop. So I think that's what we're going to see from at least Soa. That's what we're going to see from Coop. Is that what we are going to see from any other drivers? Thomas George did come into the pit lane about 6 laps ago. That seems to be a little bit too early for really any specific strategy, unless he tries to make the second and third stints much longer than the first. But expecting the 2-stoppers to start pitting within these next couple of laps now that the Austin Coop and Steve Soa machines have pit. But if they want to make a 1-stop happen, they're still going to have to go about 25 laps. They want to reach halfway. This is around lap 74. That's when that halfway bonus will be given. If they want to pit after the halfway bonus, then they're going to end up on a 2-stop strategy. But another driver pitting. That's the 17 of Eric Papineau. Hard to miss that throwback paint scheme. Evan throwing back to Daryl Waltrip's number 17 as he goes into the pits lane for his strategy. Manazzi Major in, I think, a throwback paint scheme. I'm not quite sure throwing back to what, but that number 82 is also into the pits.
The 17 was a popular one for sure in the Discord earlier this week. I'll see Manazzi Major. He also posted that he's doing a Daytona USA throwback paint scheme. So that's what we're looking at on the number 82 car. And again, those are some of the mini drivers who have come down pit road early in this one. Still looking at about a half the field yet to come down and pit. That includes basically the entirety of our race leaders. Agnew Phillip, Brandon Gass, Laraya, Nieto, and company. They all stay out. You're watching a battle between Nieto and Danson as that 38 car has reeled in the once-time race leader, and he looks to the inside in turn 3.
Danson goes low. Nieto going to make a little bit of contact with the outside wall, and he'll take that spot just a little bit further back. Ross Cato is also going to make a move, and he will work his way into P7 now. Good move for Ross Cato to work his way up the race track, and haven't seen a whole lot from Ross Cato, especially this season. Honestly, Evan, I'm not going to say I'm not impressed. He hasn't had really any bad runs. Just, I don't think the runs that we're used to seeing from that Fast Forward Esports number 12 Ford Mustang. I mean, not sitting outside of the cut line, but he is sitting a little bit closer than I think we thought. Only about 28 points to the good. I would have expected him to be a little bit further up in terms of the points, but Moscato now up to P7, looking for a good night here in Darlington. And the story of strategies is kind of paused for a minute, Evan. We saw Papanow come in. Brett Larson has also come in recently. Same thing with the Minazzi Major. We saw that Daytona USA throwback in the number 82 come in. Nobody else yet. For the time being, everybody stays on the racetrack and all following the number 94 of Agno Phillip. And there you get another look at the Daytona USA number 82 behind a Minazzi Major.
It's a good looking car as he's back out on the racetrack as they run right now, and only 10 drivers currently on the lead lap in this race in its entirety. It would not be the first time, if this trend continues, that we've actually finished a race this season with single-digit cars on the lead lap. Again, this a little bit askew due to the pit strategy. Looking long-term, though, 147 laps in this race. Seems like we're looking at a two-stop race on strategy. Means the bank is open if Agnell and company would like to come down. If they want to go for a one-stopper, you're talking to push it all the way in upwards of 74 laps. I just don't really see that happening.
It's going to be bold if they want to try and go for a one-stop. I'm not going to say it's impossible, because I think we've definitely seen some more creative strategies come out before, but one driver that I will tell you does need to eventually come into the pit lane soon is going to be Sam Nieto there in that number 2. I mean, he has severely fallen and now has Maverick Davis behind that he's going to try and pass to work his way into P5, move Sam Nieto down into P6. Not what Sam Nieto was looking for from the race lead, now down to 6th after his tires have definitely taken pretty massive hits. And I think out of the drivers that are up here at the front of this field, they have gone off the most. And unfortunately for the 2, I think if he wants to try and stay on the same strategy as Agno Phillip and the rest of the leaders, he is really just a sitting duck waiting on the rest of these drivers to pit. But his tires are just gone. 30.8 last time by the start finish line versus the 30.4 that we saw from the 94.
And kind of quietly sneaking up at all of this that we, to be fair, haven't mentioned much yet is how about Brandon Gass, right? You were just kind of giving him a shout out there. We've been talking about Lariah, Nieto led the laps, but Brandon Gass, the only person who's kind of running lap times in Agno Phillip's ballpark right now. Everybody else is losing a 10th or 2 at minimum every single time around the racetrack. That is not the case for Gass. Now, Phillip bested him that last time, but the margin was only about 200 or 300. So Brandon Gass has to feel pretty good about the long run speed in that number 20 Chevrolet. He's going to lose some time there as more of the lapped cars on fresher tires go through, but Brandon Gass has driven up from P7 and has done a fantastic job in doing so.
You know what else is going to help him out, Evan? It's going to help him out in the points when we get to these halfway points. He's sitting P8 in the points right now, pretty well off when it comes to the cut line, especially as we enter the halfway point before the end of this regular season. But it's still Agno Phillip at the front now with about 14 to go before we end up with that halfway bonus, as Phillip's looking to gain the most points out of that. Brandon Gass looking to gain the second most points, and then everybody else down from there through to the edge of the top 10 gonna gain points from this one. And that top 10 battle could get close as Austin Coop is 1 lap down. He's got the other 1 lap down driver, Thomas George, behind.
George in that 1 lap down spot. There's about 4 cars a lap down, a couple of the cars 2 down. Of course, we saw the chaotic start to this race. Andrew Freenage, Jaron Windmaster, those cars are out of this race. They've retired. Cody Harris has returned to the racetrack 13 laps down. So his strategy somewhat irrelevant, I would say, to the rest of the cars on the lead lap. But Cody is back, so he would certainly take advantage of any other drivers who do not make it to the scheduled distance. But I was sounding really confident in that lap 55 moniker all of a sudden, we're only, I'd say, 11 laps away from lap 74. The end of lap 74 is when the top 10 are paid out those midway bonus points. I feel like at this point, if you stayed out this much longer, Josh, just to pit 5 laps before the bonus, you'd kind of be just burning a pit full of points. I think these drivers who have yet to pit may be committed to going for the one stop.
Still gonna make it 10 laps on these tires, though. I think Sam Nieto is going to be the main one in trouble. I mentioned his lap times, 31.1. Ross Cato last time by, 31 flat. 30.9 that last time by the stripe for the 2 of Nieto. His tires are as worse as they can get in this top 10. I mean, let's take a look at his lap times over the last around 20 or so laps, around the last 15 or so laps, I should say. And you can see the fall off. You can just kind of see how it's been fluctuating in the high 30s, able to get in the green a little bit, but from where he was at the start, and we'll compare to Agnell Phillip, who's running at the front as well. I mean, you can see 30.5, 30.4, 30.3 at some points. Faster lap times are around 29.5. We saw him in qualifying at a 28.9. I mean, Phillip has done a much better job at taking care of those tires than really anybody else here.
Well, the driver radio chatter is picking up. They're talking strategy. They're talking position placements. Again, you can see those laps every single time around for Agnell Phillip and the intervals to each. But Agnell and company certainly in a comfortable spot as they continue to close in on the end of this race, almost halfway through. Last year, we had 25 cars in this Darlington race. That one only had 2 yellows, 21 cars in this one. 22 was the entry list. Cam Patterson did not take to the green flag. But this one is surprisingly going by pretty quick. Darlington races are not known to fly by. We've had the chaos. We just haven't had the yellows associated with them.
No yellows as of yet, with only about 7 laps now to go before we end up at that midway break, or the midway points, I should say. No break, no yellow flag that we are going to have, but where we're sitting right now, the closest battle on the racetrack is this one we're taking a look at now between Matt Danson and Maverick Davis off of turn 2. Down the Boeing backstretch they go, and Davis trying to get by Matt Danson. Lap times go in favor of Matt Danson last time by, but this time by I think it's going to be much different as Davis is all over his back bumper across the start-finish line.
Gets to the back bumper in the center, returns 1 and 2. Almost a bit of a touch that time as they roll off of the corner. And now the 15 of Davis is looking. He'll lift, though, did not want to force a side-by-side maneuver down into the entry of turn number 3. So he'll try to wind it back up. But this is a tough racetrack to pass when you're only a little bit better than the guy in front of you. You do not want to sail it into the corner side by side with anybody else. You need to basically get the run off the turn and clear them by the time you get to corner entry. And that's why Davis may be careful here. He wants P3 for sure, or P4 I should say, in this battle, but he does not want to wreck the race car in order to do so. So he's going to take some time and try to set this one up properly.
That's going to be tough. We know Matt Danson is a very, very tough competitor. Hasn't had the oval stats really to back him up in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, but he is still a veteran when it comes to these stock cars, and I think we might have a new entry for Race Spot commentators jinx, because Danson taking the catch fence down in turn 2. Give the spot to Maverick Davis now for P4.
At that point, didn't have much of a choice after he nearly took the fence down at the beginning of the Boeing backstretch there. And I don't know if that was, feeling some of the pressure from Maverick behind was Matt Danson, but makes a mistake there. The 15 quick to gobble it up. Again, and I think that's a testament to the patience for Maverick Davis. That's what it gets him, is he gets a spot in the end. He probably gave up, I'd say, an extra second and a half or 2 total seconds during that battle. So that's going to put him whole 3 seconds off of Michael Araya in third. He's got some work to do if he wants to get up there, but alas, he does get the spot and gets the clean racetrack that comes with it. Next time by, going to be lap number 74, bonus points on the line. Agnew Phillip has already maxed out some points races so far this season. He used to be able to cap out at about 40 race points. Now with bonuses in the Midway, you're talking about more than 50 points available on any given race. That's the most in RSR history. And as Agnew Phillip is uncontested down the backstretch, and Danson coming to pit road 1 lap shy of cashing out the points. Phillip will come off at turn number 4, and he'll snag the 10 bonus points, and then will likely be headed to pit road.
To be fair to Matt Danson, he pit before that midway race break, but Evan, he only has scored P8 or 9 at the end of that lap because Thomas George pitted so much earlier and he was 1 lap down. Danson still is going to walk away with a couple of points. Have we seen, since the midway race points were introduced in RSR, a driver get points from the pit lane?
So he'll get something out of it. It's a good consolation for Matt Danson, but I'm sure if he didn't need to pit for fuel, he would have taken the 4 points over the 2. And of course, that midway bonus coincides directly with midway in the race. So we should be seeing everybody else coming down pit road as well. Gas, Cato, Landry, Davis, they are all on pit road. Only Phillip, Laraya, and Nieto have yet to come. And here is the 94 on pit lane entry. Phillip comes down for service. Laraya does not pit. And that is going to be a first lap lead on the afternoon for Michael Laraya and a bonus point to the 44.
So put Michael Araya to the top of the scoring pylon. And off of turn 2 he goes. Now that Phillip's in, when is the 44 going to pit? This only leaves 2 drivers on the racetrack that have still yet to hit pit lane. It's Michael Araya and it's Sam Nieto. Nieto still trying to stretch out this green flag run as much as he can. Kind of surprised at his ability to keep stretching this one out, especially after being a full second now slower than new net race leader Michael Araya. With Agnew Phillip in the pits, Austin Coop is also going to pass him on the racetrack. Coop on the 2-stop strategy. First driver out of this 1-stop strategy still is going to be Agnew Phillip.
No surprise that Agnew's going to find himself in the right spot to cycle back out and eventually is going to retake the race lead in this one. Just going to be a matter of time as we will wait on Michael Araya to come down to pit road. And that'll just about wrap it all up. Again, it will take some time because the likes of Burke have already pitted, George have already pitted, Coop have already pitted anywhere from 20 to 30 laps ago. So they are ahead of him at the moment. But now as Michael Araya, I think, just queued up over the radio, said that he's coming to pit road, and it's exactly what that was. The Sim Speed Shop Chevrolet to pit road. He is in for service. It's always a fun pit lane entry here at Darlington with the barrels and the downhill slope to turn number 1. But he is in, and that will give the race lead off to Austin Coop, who's currently in turns 3 and 4 when he comes around.
I was expecting that number 44 to end up with a speeding penalty, but I think he got it wound up just enough to avoid that penalty. But over halfway done with this race, we have seen everybody now cycle their way in and out of the pit lane. So that leaves Austin Coop in the lead. Bradley Burke is going to cycle his way into second place. That will also cycle Thomas George and more up back into the top 5. Again, first of that group of 1-stop strategy drivers is Agnew Phillip. You can kind of tell by Phillip Danson. Another driver doing the 2-stop is Michael Araya. Maverick Davis And we can take a look at the stints as well where they currently run. Those two-stop strategy drivers are going to be the ones with those higher numbers. They've been running for more time on the racetrack. They are middle of the way or almost to the end of their second stint on the racetrack. Everybody with the lower numbers, that 4 for Magno Phillips, 7, 6, and 1. That was the last time they came down into the pit lane. Those are all of your one-stop strategy drivers. Pretty split field in terms of two-stop versus one-stop. We're going to see if any yellow flags put a wrench into those plans.
I don't know if it's quite a jinx if you call it a yellow flag over the C word, Josh, but you've already kind of ushered one car into the turn 2 wall. So I'd just be careful. I'd be light treading based on the hypotheticals that you want to toss out there. But you're absolutely right. Of course, all those drivers on the two-stop strategy, the higher lap counter total for the last time they since pitted, they're going to have to come down pit road a second time. They're just going to eliminate themselves from this by proxy. Burke could probably just get some extra fuel, go all the way to the end of the race. Wouldn't matter. I think Agnell's going to get him no matter what for second. Coop really the only person who's going to, really hurt by this. And then the question is, he's got some bonus points. He'll lead a lap. I don't think he's going to end up leading more than Nieto or Phillip. For Coop, do you just kind of stick with the strategy if that's indeed the decision? You're looking at these guys pitting closer to 50 laps to go or so is when we can expect to see Coop, Burke, George, Major, Papanow, Soa, Larson. And I think that's almost all of the cars on the two-stop strategy to come back down and finalize things.
I'm not a hater of the two-stop strategy, especially for those drivers that were running further in the back of the field. It's a chance. They have a little bit more of a chance if they take that two-stop strategy. Do something different than Agnell Phillip, than Bradley Burke, or than the other drivers on that one-stop strategy like Maverick Davis. Do something different than Michael Loraya. Do something different than Ross Cato. All those drivers that are used to running up front. Do something different than them. Gives you a little bit better of a shot. You do everything the same as those leaders, well, you're going to end up just behind all of those leaders. Do something a little bit different. Trying out their strategy to get yourself at the front of this field, and it could end up working out in their favor. They're going to need a little bit more luck than the one-stop strategy crowd, but there is still a significant amount of people on the racetrack who have not hit pit lane for the last time.
You just got to watch it around the field to see where those other battles are forming up, and if it's actually a battle or if it's cars on different strategies that just happen to be running around each other. Davis, Loraya, this battle for P5 and 6. These cars good to go to the end, and a quick move on the inside. Through goes Loraya to the number 5 spot. Makes a nice quick pass on Maverick Davis. Behind them, that's a lapped car in Dalton Randolph, who's trying to find his way through this battle while also not interfering.
And that, while also not interfering, is very difficult here at Darlington, because pretty much all you're doing is interfering with other drivers on the racetrack. Side by side for P8, this is Ross Cato, Amanatzi Major. That's about a 30 lap difference in tires on those two. So that was quick work made for Thomas George, as Ross Cato gets right by him as George hits the wall on the outside. Very, very quick work also done on Thomas George, as the Nazi Major, with about 10 lap fresher tires than George as well, is also going to end up going by the 6, who hits the outside wall in 2. We jump up to a battle for third, dancing on Burke, and another quick pass made by the number 38. 15 lap fresher tires on that Altus machine.
It's a good piece of driving there, as these drivers are doing their best to just stay out of trouble, relatively speaking. Again, this is a race that's going to be won on overall pace and not who can push for 5 laps here or 5 laps there. But right now, 9 cars sit on the lead lap. Again, we will see many of the two-stop tire strategy drivers pit. They will drop back in traffic and then try to cycle back through to the front. As Matt Danson closes in, that's lapped car Eric Papineau, a lap down from P12. Danson's able to get through. Danson and Phillip, same strategy. That's the eventual battle for the race win. It's about a 3-second and change difference between those two as they run right now. Certainly, Phillip even gained more through the pit cycle. Typically, that's kind of an opportunity for some of the drivers in the field to push a little bit, pit in, pit out, strategy-wise, but seems like Agnell benefited even on that end of things. Now, Danson's a tad bit quicker than him at the moment. Danson, having pitted earlier, makes that kind of an interesting point. Curious if Agnell saving just a little bit. Remember, Agnell was much more comfortable on fuel than Danson was, and maybe the kind of mid-run savings is why.
I think we are going to see pretty much the exact same thing we saw from Agnell Phillip in that first run. We're going to see the exact same thing here in this second run. We're already about 16 laps into it, which is about the time Agnell Phillip started to turn the wick on in stint number 1. And as we work our way through stint 2, trying to keep that gap up between these two drivers, Agnell Phillip and Matt Danson. You mentioned, Evan, 3 seconds separating these two and slowly falling. Not sure exactly how long that gap is going to continue to fall, and just like that, gains a little bit more time, up to 3.1 seconds on the racetrack. For right now on the track, P2, we're expecting the two-stop strategy crowd to start pitting here relatively soon. They're at 47 laps on their stint. That was when Austin Coop first came into the pit lane, was at lap 47. So we're expecting to see these drivers start working their way into the pit lane soon for their second and final green flag stop of the race.
And that live gap's a good look at how that is going to change. When I had kind of referenced that gap, it was 3.5 seconds. So it's a good visual indicator of just how much time Danson's been able to make up in pretty short order. Looking at this battle, off and into turn number 1 and 2. Couple of cars doing battle up against the outside wall. Austin Coop in the 53 car against still your leader, DeAndre Kane, lapped car, fresher tires, going to be faster than the leader. It's not a huge concern if I'm Coop, but man, does it make me just a little bit nervous anytime somebody else on fresh tires or slower tires is around you, because it's only an opportunity to kind of mess things up. I think these drivers will have plenty of space on the racetrack to be able to navigate each other. And DeAndre could have forced the issue there in turn number 1. Instead, he does not. He's going to check up, wait, and he'll probably try to set it up the next time down the front. So still a lot of patience. I think you don't see that same level of patience if this is a race where we've had yellow after yellow, and that's going to make it an easy decision because Austin Coop at lap number 97 is down pit road, almost into the barrels that time in. He makes the cut. Major also down pit road just in front of him.
There is 3 of your two-stop drivers. Thomas George is also going to pit in the 6. So here comes all those 3-stop drivers into the pit lane. They will run their longest stint. This stint 2, or stint 3 for them, is going to be the longest one that they run all night long. They're going to have to go over the amount of laps they ran on both of those previous stints with 50 laps remaining. So now that puts us with Agnell Phillip back to the lead. Puts us in a little bit of a second place battle between Matt Danson and Michael Laraya. This is what we're taking a look at now, as the 38 has the 44 within his rear view mirror. How quickly can Laraya catch up? 6 lap fresher tires on the same speed shop Chevy Camaro.
We take a look at the drivers who have led laps in this race. That last lap was the 39th, led by Agnell Phillip. He now leads more laps than anybody else in this race. That had been previously held by Sam Nieto with 38 led. Coop led 17 through that pit cycle, but the decision, or kind of the necessity to come down pit road, has also already dropped him down to 14th. He's going to look to make up some of those spots now. 15th spot as Thomas George gets around him. And then Michael Araya took 4 laps led in there. He's in the mix as well, just back in 3rd. But watching this group go down the front straightaway, that's the battle for P2 with the 2 of Nieto kind of being a blocker here. I'm curious if that lapped car in front of Danson, who we're on board with, is going to affect him in any way, as Lariah is right there ready to bounce.
Here the downshift as well through 3 and 4 for the 38 off the corner. That is Nieto in front of this group, and Nieto right now 1 lap down. He is on around the same strategy as these drivers, so only a couple lap fresher tires than them. He will let Danson and Lariah go now as they work their way back to the Boeing backstretch. Danson able to hold on to 2nd place, but Lariah is hungry for it. This is your closest battle on the racetrack, and Michael Lariah trying to get back up into 2nd place, and if that yellow flag were to come out, be within better striking distance of Agno Phillip, especially if they came down into the pits.
Lariah looks to the inside. He pitted about 6 laps after Danson. He's got a tire advantage, and he is on the inside. Danson knew it was coming, will not fight back, and into turn 3, Michael Lariah has gone back to the number 2 spot. Both he and Danson having a great night, but what Agno Phillip is on the entry list, a great night can only look so good. They're doing everything they can. Is there anything they can do from over 3 seconds back to make this one interesting, close it in on 40 laps to go?
I think it will take that yellow flag, that magical C word that we keep dancing around, because there's no pit stops left. It really is only if Agno Phillip burns up his tires are we going to see Lariah insert himself back into this mess. Now, that being said, we can take a look at the last 3 laps, and you can see that Lariah on the last 2 was quicker. Let's see about lap 105. We're currently on 105. The 94 will go across the start-finish line. There you can see the 44 Lariah further back. 29.756, almost an identical lap time. What does Lariah run? He runs almost 2/10 faster again. Lariah is catching, but is this Agno Phillip playing it overly safe like he normally does? Or does the 44 have something to contest with?
I think it's always difficult for us to not be skeptical anytime somebody's making up time on Agno Phillip, just because he has been so superhuman all year long. I do think there is legitimately a speed advantage to Lariah, because Lariah pitted 3 laps after Agno, so there is in some semblance a tire advantage there. Now, if you put me out there on 27 lap older tires, they're not going to be nearly as good as Agno Phillip on 30 lap old, right? That there is still a level of tire management this deep into a run that can vary that number, but just on the numbers, Lariah's got a little bit better tires. It's not unrealistic to think that he's got a little bit of a better race car. Right on cue, though, he gets stuck dealing with a lapped car in the 56 Landry, 2/10 slower than Phillip that time by. Those are the things that Agno Phillip does not have to worry about here. With a 3-second gap, every time Agno gets to lap traffic, he can take it easy. He can be careful making that move. If you're Lariah, you can't. Like that 2/10 of a second cost right there, you're not going to get that back. That is a big mistake and a big cost for Lariah. So while Phillip can be careful, if you want to win this race, you can't. You have to force the issue, and that's the disadvantage you have when you're playing from behind.
And inside now, 40 laps to go. I mean, the time is running out, albeit a little bit slowly now that we're in this second stint, now in the middle of this second long stint for the drivers on the 2-stop strategy. We're only looking at a little under 20 minutes left on the arbitrary race clock that is estimated time remaining. with Lariah having the 17 Eric Papanow all over his back bumper, not really helping that gap go down. It will go down to around that 3-second buffer that we saw a couple of laps ago, but not going to get much more improvement. Is back across the line. Agnel Phillip leads the way still to the tune of a little bit more than 3 seconds now. Further back, no gaps to contest of just yet, with only 6 drivers still remaining on the lead lap.
And just looking at lap times, I think we'll probably end with only 5. Bradley Burke, the last car on the lead lap. Same tire strategy as our race leader. And he actually 53 laps. Burke kind of in a weird middle spot. He had a kind of in-betweener pit stop. So Burke may actually need to pit once more, which would make it even more obvious regardless of if it's going to be 5 or 4 on the lead lap. But I think we'll end with 5. Cato, everybody else, again, on the same strategy as Phillip. The one thing else to watch for now is, 20 laps ago, we were talking about the 2-stoppers. Well, they are all running 11th on back. None of them are higher. They're all 2 laps down. So pretty clearly, not the winning call in this race. The one stop seems to reign supreme, but all those cars who pitted twice are 11th on back. You can see them in the scoring pylon now. Plus 2 laps, plus 2 laps, plus 3, and so on. Major, George, Coop, Papanow, Soa. Can they take a dent out of the cars ahead of them? Are they going to get to Brandon Gass, to Randolph, to Nieto? Can they beat any of the one-stoppers?
It's not going to be easy for any of them to work their way further up. I think we are going to need that yellow flag that will shake this field up. I mean, looking at Papanow, Soa, Larson, they're the worst off. They're all 3 laps down collectively. If we do get a yellow flag, that will bunch them up and cause a battle for around P14. We have 3 drivers that are 2 laps down. That's Manazzi Major, Thomas George, and Austin Coop. That'll be a battle for 11th if they get bunched back together. Then that battle for the 1 lap down drivers. Right now, Bradley Burke is sitting with your lucky dog, and he sits a good ways behind Agnel Phillip on the racetrack, who has just put him 1 lap down. He would be that free pass driver, leaving Landry, Nieto, Randolph, and Gass all 1 lap down. That would bunch them up again to get them back into a battle themselves. So we have a chance at some really good on-track battles going. Relatively not on the lead lap, but among those drivers that are 1 lap down, most of them are on the same strategy, except for Bradley Burke, who just got put 1 lap down. He has been stretching his stint so far. We're looking at 57 laps on the number 19 of Bradley Burke's tires. I mean, that is a long stint. He pitted before the 2-stopper. He pitted after the 2-stoppers and before the 1-stoppers.
He's kind of in limbo.
I don't know exactly when he's going to pit. It's going to be a late pit, and it's going to be a late run to the checkered flag, and now has lost the free pass position, to be fair. Jason Landry now goes the first car 1 lap down.
And again, when Bradley pits, you're talking about nearly 50 seconds on pit road alone here. Obviously, the stop, about 15 or so seconds of that, but that doesn't count the time to slow down, the time to speed up. He's going to lose 2 additional laps simply by having to come down pit road. He's going to be 14th, if not worse. So Bradley Burke, and actually here he comes now. Burke in from P7. He may be the only outstanding pit stop left in this race. And now let's see what the Get Wet Esports machine can do. It's going to be 4 tires and fuel, and then damage limitation in the final 29.
So this puts him into the pits. He'll go to the tail end of the 1 lap down drivers. He'll also go into that 2 lap group, maybe into that 3 lap group. Under 30 to go. I think it would have worked out a little better if he was on the lead lap. Even if he does pass Agnel Phillip on the racetrack, he's only going to gain 1 of those laps back. And he's looking at only gaining, if he gains 1 of those laps back, he'd still be about, I'm going to say 1 lap down, because the jack's about to go down on the left side tires. and he's going to be out of the pit lane and back up to speed before the time Phillip can reach him. So if he does pass Phillip on the racetrack, then that means Bradley Burke, who exits the pits now, will go back to 1 lap down, but still have to contend with all of those 1 lap down drivers, then try and pass Phillip again to get his lap back again. He's going to need 1 yellow flag, possibly 2, if he wants to end up contending for a race win on this strategy. I'm wondering exactly what the thought process behind that was in the Get Wet Sports Chevy.
And listen, I'm not one to question drivers often, because I will be the first to admit that they could all very easily school me out on the racetrack. But again, just an interesting call for Burke. He cycles back to 13th. He needed to get back to P9 in this race. If he could make it a net loss enough, then that's exactly where he started this race. But he would have to catch up to this duo in order to do so. And that was Austin Coop, who passed Thomas George. So that is a battle amongst the drivers on the 2-stop strategy. Again, they continue to fight amongst themselves. Coop, though, has got some work to do to get the Benazzi Major. That's about a 6-second difference between P11 and P10. Benazzi probably pretty safe, I would think. And the 2-car of Sam Nieto, frustrated with some of the traffic that he's dealing with. The 2-car Barkett on the radio from P7. He's in this group of 3. And I don't think he was happy with Brett Larson, who had fresher tires, but a little bit timid passing him.
You also got to remember, this is a battle in front of Sam Nieto. This is the battle for P15 on the track. This is Steve Soa versus Brett Larson in this fight. Now, yes, they're 3 laps down. Yes, Sam Nieto is only 1 lap down, but admittedly, they're all off of the lead lap. And 2 drivers are in a battle, and Sam Nieto has caught up to them. So I think Sam Nieto is, I wouldn't say rightfully angry. I don't think anybody likes sitting in traffic, whether it's on the virtual racetrack, whether it's in the real world on the interstate. But these drivers are in a battle ahead of him, and Soa and Larson both on kind of the same 2-stop strategy, albeit Soa pitted about 8 laps before Brett Larson. But these drivers are in a little bit of a battle here for P15 on the track.
And now drop it off a little bit is going to be the 2 of Nieto. So Nieto, again, a lead lap car, 46-lap-old tires, fresher tires for Larson and Soa. And a big moment there for Larson, but he's going to keep his foot in the gas to the inside. And Soa's into the outside wall now. And it's going to give Larson the spot, maybe a mini heart attack for the 2 of Nieto, who had to check up. I think Soa just got a little bit spooked by Larson throwing it in there next to him into the turn, got it into the wall, and it'll give P15 to Larson. Soa slips to P16.
I think Nieto got a little bit of a touch at that. He might have gotten just a smidge of damage. We'll see if we can find out, but that was a relatively weird incident from Steve Soa. Wasn't expecting that bit of a mistake. You can hear him clutching as well to try and save some fuel. Soa up into the wall. Nieto did make contact. He was out of the gas for a long time.
No additional comments from him on the radio, but again, that can be the frustrating part as some of these cars now, Nieto going to get around Soa. In fact, some issue maybe with Steve Soa. He's coming to pit road. The 75 car, been out there for 33 laps, should be able to make it to the end of this race. There is nobody behind him that he would lose this spot to. He is 11 laps actually, ahead of DeAndre Kane, who's in 17th position. So Soa can kind of take a free pit stop here if maybe he feels like he tore up his stuff and burned those tires off fighting. So I think that's what this is going to be for the 75, is simply an insurance stop. Come down, get tires and fuel added, and you're not going to lose any spots.
Honestly, a good strategy there for Soa, because unless he was stuck in the pit lane for about 10 laps, he would not have lost another spot. So he only goes down to P16, where he already was on the racetrack before he came in. He'll go from 3 laps down to 4, and that's about all he's going to fall. Dalton Randolph and Brandon Gass are in a battle. That's Ross Cato on the lead lap in front of them. Gas and Randolph side by side with 18 to go, fighting for P8. And Gas in the 60 or in the 20 is going to get that spot for P8.
A three-way battle with Nieto in 7th spot, Gas in 8th, Randolph in 9th, and the lap to machine of Cato trying to get out of the way. Some contact that time with the wall. I think that was Randolph who got the outside wall pushing. And here comes Brandon Gas trying to get around the lap traffic. That Salmon, I think we agreed maybe it was, the 12 of Ross Cato. He'll get by the pick essentially and now try to resume the battle for P7.
Here comes Gas to the inside of Sam Nieto, who is on that same falling nature that he was in that first stint. This has suddenly become a three-way fight between one lap down drivers. Cato's going to get out of their way, being on the lead lap even. The 5 goes to the inside to let this group race on through. Gas pulls away from the now side-by-side Nieto and Randolph. Nieto going to let Randolph go as he got way up to the fence in turn 4.
He's been doing that a lot. I mean, inside of 20 laps to go, there is no give and only take, and everybody driving about as aggressively as we've seen them all night long. Nieto in the Little Caesars car just seems like he's a little bit short on a pace to be able to stick with Randolph and Gas, and I think Gas, the best of that trio, has seemed to be able to pull away, and maybe that three-way battle starts to die down just a little bit, and Nieto and Randolph maybe the only point left. Thomas George, Bradley Burke, I was just about to say they're pretty close to each other, but there's a swap for position. Burke down on the inside. He will clear after they just about took each other out in turn 2.
That was a real loose moment there from Thomas George in the 6. I'm not even fully sure if they made contact, Evan. It just looked like the 6 might have gotten a little bit too far up into the wall as well, and that led to him almost hitting or almost taking out himself in the process. We'll see exactly what happened as we take a look again at race leader, the number 94, Wagner Phillip. There's a touch to the outside wall for the 6. That's when the 19 gains time. He did make contact. Puts the 6 into the outside wall.
So that's how that one nearly came to a close, and make it about the 3rd or 4th close call that we've gotten away with. Despite the best efforts of the field of competitors, this race still without a yellow through 135 laps completed. And now it starts to get a little bit excruciating if you're Wagner Phillip, because these 30-second laps do not feel like the 30-second laps that you were taking 100 laps ago. They feel long. You feel every bump. You look at every bobble through the windshield and in the rearview mirror with the cars around you, just hoping that nothing goes wrong. And can you imagine if this ProPublica Guild machine parks it in victory lane looking for his 6th race win of the season? And it's only round number 9. Last year, Agnell totaled 7 in the entirety of the campaign.
With this win, he goes up to a grand total of 6 wins. That would be in 9 rounds. What? 66.66 repeating percent winning percentage. I mean, that is unheard of. Over 50% already coming into this race. Over 50% of races won this season. I mean, it's been a monumental 2 seasons in the next gen machine for the 94. And it's looking like another monumental season in 2024. The A51 Pro Chevrolet, who is on the road to pro ladder, trying to make a way for himself into the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And it's these runs on Monday night that make me a little bit nervous for the existing eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series competitors, Evan, if we see Wagner Phillip make his way into the top ranks.
We've seen many big names come through this series. Kevin King, the likes of Danson, the likes of Phillip, the likes of Freenosh. Through that road to pro ladder, there is a lot of talent out there in iRacing, and we've had the pleasure of watching many of them do battle here on Mondays, but this is feeling I would look back to the stretch of Andrew Friedosh from 2018 to 2021, when 4 consecutive championships. It was quite a big story. But Agnell Phillip kind of snapped that streak in 2022. He defended his title last year. This is feeling like peak era dominance Andrew Friedosh. There were times in those 19, 20 seasons where this was it. It was the Andrew Friedosh show every week. 20 cars, 40 cars, didn't matter. Nobody could touch Andrew Friedosh. And we are getting that era type of performance out of Agnell Phillip here to start 2024.
Battle further back. This is for the drivers that are 2 laps down. Manatzi Major and Austin Coop. Battle for 10th. Excuse me, with 6 to go. Once Agnell Phillip comes across the line, he does. But Manatzi Major and Austin Coop, 2 drivers that are on the exact same 3-stop strategy that both pitted 42 laps ago, respectively. Major able to hold off Austin Coop as Coop hits the outside wall. Had a little bit of a shimmy there as well. We stay green as he keeps it straight. We are within overtime range now, Evan, as Agnell Phillip crosses the line to put us into 5 laps to go.
Inside of 5 laps to go, every moment you just hold your breath. And again, he just wants to get to the end, but there's also been so much dominance from Agnell that I would assume that some of those late race closing moment jitters that you would expect any other driver to get, I don't think they'll ever go away completely, but I don't think it's going to rack his nerves like it would a Lariah or a Danson or a Davis or somebody else who is still hoping to get their first win of the season. This is what he expects to do. If he was not running in this #1 spot, I think maybe then he'd be a little bit more nervous than if it was the opposite. And this next time by, going to be looking at 3 laps to go for Agnell Phillip. There is a huge gaggle of lapped cars about a half a straightaway up the road. I don't know if he'll get there, though, for them to be a factor.
Battle for 10th, bottom of your screen between Major and Coop. Agnell Phillip trying to have a walk-off victory here in Darlington. Coop looked to the inside again on Major. Did he go too close to the sun? Almost hits the outside wall. He does not, and will stay behind Manatzi Major. But with 2 laps to go, absolutely no contest for Agnell Phillip. There's those lapped cars in front of him. He doesn't have to do much with them. He'll go to the back bumper of the 51 of Brett Larson, who makes quick work of him as he goes down the Boeing backstretch for the second to last time tonight. Coop's going to be able to get that 10th spot over Manatzi Major. But looking at the front of the field, Agnell Phillip is staring down yet another race win. White flag this time by the start-finish line.
Dalton Randolph going to yield to the inside. 1 lap to go from Darlington. Ross Cato, the next car in line, 5th place on the racetrack. That's how fast Agnell Phillip has been tonight. He has pulled more than 8 seconds ahead of the car in second on back. Is he going to get to P5? Maybe just a few hundred feet short of lapping another one, but the historic start to the season continues. Race win number 6 for Agnell Phillip.
What a season that is starting for Agnell Phillip. And at this rate, Evan, all these playoff points he's gaining, it's going to be another waltz through round 1, maybe even a waltz through round 2 if it keeps going the way it's been going for him. What a season so far, and what a race he put together. Almost exactly like Dover, just without that photo finish at the end. He lags back at the start, saves all that he's got, and ends up dominating the race and commanding it from start to finish. That's exactly how it's done in the 94. Can well-deserved burn it down.
And this is a familiar sight. It is a celebration for the ProPublica Guild Chevrolet Agnell Phillip, who is a race winner for the 6th time in 9 starts this season. Maybe even more impressive than that, Josh. The 5th time in the last 6 races. This man cannot be stopped. And we take a look at your RSR full race results. A lot of bow ties inside of the top four. Agado Phillip win 9 seconds over Michael Araya P2. Danson falls way off to P3. We'll try to chat with all those drivers in just a moment. Maverick Davis and Ross Cato, 4th and 5th. They're your top 5. They are the only other cars to finish on the lead lap. Landry, Gas, Randolph, Nieto, and Coop, that late pass, round out your top 10.
Back from there to round out the drivers that took the green flag tonight. Manatsi Major, Bradley Burke, Thomas George going to be the first of the drivers to finish 3 laps down. Eric Papanow finishing 3 laps down as well. Larson and Soa both end up finishing 4 laps down, 15th and 16th. DeAndre Kane and Cody Harris end up both finishing plus 14 laps on the night. Mike Maddox plus 96. Jaron Winemaster plus 131 after the issue with Cody Harris earlier on tonight. And Andrew Farinage ends up with lap 1 damage off of an early wreck. He ends up P21. And that Tenna Cam Patterson never taking the green flag. He showed up for practice and I don't believe put down time in qualifying, and equally did not take the green flag behind the official iRacing pace car. So he ends up finishing P22 unofficially.
So top to bottom at your full race results. Let's get a word with the man of the hour. It is another race win for Agado Phillip, number 6 of 2024. We're trackside with him now at Agado. Congratulations. It seems like this is a weekly occurrence because, yeah, 6 out of 9 is impressive, but 5 out of the last 6. What is just going right for you?
I think it's just been, we just had some good tracks kind of on the schedule for us, and the races have played out really, really nicely for kind of my style, kind of the long green runs, not having to do too much of the chaotic restarts and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. I've been doing iRacing now for long enough that it can kind of get up to speed at the tracks a little quicker, so can kind of just focus on hopping in and trying to do the best we can. So I think it's just a combo of circumstance and kind of how the races have played out. I think a couple things go differently 2 weeks ago with at Dover. Then Drew gets me at the line. Same thing with Bristol with kind of how that worked out. So they haven't all been gimmies. Today was definitely one of the easier ones, but Drew had an issue on lap 1. So you just never know how the races are going to play out. But we've been doing a good job all season so far.
My thoughts are, we look at a field where there's 21 cars competing on track. One would think, okay, less cars, less competition, but you mentioned Drew, you mentioned Danson. I mean, those big names are still there. Is it, though, a byproduct that less cars in the field means less yellows, that in turn is kind of less unpredictability, less chaos? And when it comes to a race like this, or most of the races this year that have none, if very few yellows, that obviously I think benefits you more than those crazy races where there's restarts and overtime and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a big part of it. Like I said, it's kind of just how the races have been playing out, and definitely the smaller fields help with that. I'm not bad at restarts by any stretch, but you definitely have a lot less in your control, especially with this car. Kind of the first 10 laps, I think you see in all these races, everybody's pretty even on pace, so you get into one of those situations, it kind of depends on track position and kind of how everything shakes out in terms of what lane you end up in and how you get shuffled and how the pushes are and all that. So kind of not having to worry about that has been a big part of it. At Bristol, though, at the same time, the caution came out at an opportune time. I was able to take advantage of it there. So just kind of taking what we can get out of each race and trying to put ourselves in the best position.
We got a week off and then going to be the longest race of the season. We will head to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Of course, the 600 miler means that we go for 300. Does that really materially change any of the prep that you have to do for that one?
No, if anything, you can kind of, just chill in the race and learn a bit more in the race. So I think we'll just kind of try to, patience is definitely a big part of that race, because at some point, in previous years, maybe when we've had slightly bigger fields and things have been a little bit more chaotic, there's sometimes cautions like in the beginning of the race, and then you kind of settle out and there's a long green run that happens somewhere in there. So that's coming, whether that's kind of from the beginning or there's some cautions or whatever. So you have to be kind of settled in there for that and really take care of your stuff. It seems like the way that the cars are driving this year, they're definitely kind of very sensitive to being overdriven, and Charlotte's an easy track to overdrive on both ends, entries, exits, everything. So I'm definitely going to try and just kind of go in there and take it easy and kind of work up to it during the race and see where everything shakes out at the end. But I think it'll be a fun one. This race felt long. I know it's not anywhere close to the longest race on the schedule, so I'm sure that'll be particularly grueling when we go there.
We're looking forward to seeing how that one plays out, and if you can continue the streak, because something tells me the longer this goes on, the bigger the bullseyes are going to get on the bumper angle. As always, we appreciate you being here again. Congratulations on the win, and we'll catch you again next time.
Appreciate it, Evan. You sound a little sick. Are you feeling all right?
Too much travel. I think that's
too much travel. Well, I hope you feel better. Thanks for putting this on.
We'll see you around. That's your race winner tonight. It is Agno Phillip. Again, he is a 6-time race winner in 9 starts. Josh, it is so impressive. Michael Araya, another great run tonight, but good is only good enough for P2, your Trek side with him.
Geez, the stuffy nose call out there from Agno Phillip.
I know.
But we do have Michael Araya with us now. And Michael, it was a solid run for you, but only second place, unfortunately, 9 seconds behind the number 94. What went wrong? Was it the strategy differences? Was it the 94 just being too quick? What was it out there on the track too tough to tame?
I think it was just the 94 being too quick, and my teammate Sam Nieta was convinced that Agno's got a smoky Unic set up in that car with the extra fuel line buried somewhere. But no, he just ran a stellar race. I mean, his pace was just unbelievable at the end there. I was able to stretch it on fuel for the pit sequence, few laps over what he did, but I think what it came down to was I just gave up so much ground by waiting to pit. And it was working, though, when the first 15 laps or so after we pitted, I was making up a ton of time. But then I think just having to go so hard to gain back all that time, it just destroyed my tire. So I had 3 laps to the good at the end, but I had nothing left of the tire, so I stalled out, and then I ended up losing time. So I'd have to look back at the replay and kind of see just how Agno was managing his run. Like, my thoughts are he probably just ran a real consistent pace, didn't really overdo it at all during that last run, and that was really what made the difference.
Now looking forward in the rest of the season, this is going to be fairly helpful for you in your pursuit at the playoffs. You were still a good bit above the cut line coming into tonight, and a good night keeps you above that cut line, reaching about halfway before the regular season cuts off. Where are you at with the rest of the season, and are you nervous at all about getting close to that cut line, or is it just full focus, as consistent as you can be to stay above it?
Honestly, I'm just trying to get a win at this point. I just want to win. I think the whole field has some work to do on that front, because Agnell is just on cruise control right now. So we got to figure something out, whether it be with our pace or strategy, just outsmart these guys. But I think with the tracks coming up, I have Charlotte circled. I was able to get the win there last year. I feel like I could definitely compete again for another win there. So really looking forward to that race coming up. But I feel like I have enough solid finishes at this point where I can take some gambles and try to get that win. If we start having a couple bad runs, and yeah, you got to start worrying more about points. But at this stage, I just want to get a win and just lock myself in.
Honestly valid for wanting that win, especially getting it over the 94 of Agno Phillip. But putting a close on tonight's race here from Darlington, anybody else you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, I got to thank the Flat Out teammates just for, sharing notes and strategizing through these things. I mean, it certainly helps to have some guys to lean on with this stuff. Got to thank Sim Speed Shop for being on board the car this year. And I got to thank you guys for putting on the broadcasts.
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations again on that second place finish. That's Michael Laraya finishing P2 tonight from the virtual Darlington Raceway, and we transition to P3 finisher on the podium. It is Matt Danson in the number 38. And Matt, first of all, great to see you in some new colors as well. Talk about that paint scheme. Was it special for throwback night, or is this some new branding on that 38 Altus Esports Chevy?
Hey, long time since I've been here. Yeah, just a new paint, and coincidentally on the throwback event, which is a little bit unfortunate, but yeah, I just changed up the colors. We've still got our normal, blue, orange, white vibes, but just kind of mixing up every so often. So I think I'll run this for most of the remainder of the season, but it's pretty sexy, I think.
I'm a fan of the switch up. I've been staring at those same Altus colors all the way back in the iRacing Rallycross days in like mid 2020, early 2021. So I take a welcome Altus change. But the race from you tonight, you mentioned first time in a while we've been speaking to you here. You qualified 13th. You end up finishing on the podium in third. What came together in the race versus the hot laps in practice and qualifying?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously this season's been pretty difficult so far, just with balancing work. So I've had to do a lot of start and parks so far, just to try and, keep myself in the hunt. That if I can stay in the top 25, and if I can, steal a win somewhere, then we get to the whole postseason situation. But thankfully, it just so happened with work that I was able to to get this race in. No practice, because why would we make things easier on ourselves? So I was saying to Agnel just before I joined in here, my preparation consisted of watching the last lap that he did in practice. That was me getting a handle on what I should be doing, and then in quali, those were my first and only laps at all. And then the first run of the race was just trying to implement Agnel's qualifying strategy into my race run and trying to make that work, which I murdered the right front, of course, but I feel like the second run I drove a lot better. Still not great, but yeah, just trying to be consistent with what I've known over the years, but also it's pretty tough when you're going up against people as good as Laraya and Agnel, who have a few runs on the board.
You mentioned that work schedule. Can we expect to see you for a good bit of the rest of the regular season and heading into those playoffs?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I hope so. Hopefully around playoff time, it should be okay. But maybe I'll give a shout out to my boss, hey Maury. Hopefully he cuts me some slack and we can arrange the schedule around it. But we'll see. We'll see how we go.
Well, we hope he does, and we hope that we get to see you for a good bit of the remainder of the season. Thank you very much, Matt Danson, for joining us here in the booth, and hopefully we'll get to see you in a few weeks' time when we go back racing.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
Great to hear from all three of your podium finishers tonight, Evan, and looking forward now for the rest of the regular season. We're going to end the regular season again here at Darlington, but that ends a caution-free night in the first Darlington race of 2 of the season.
And it's not a good sign for the rest of the field that it is such a dominant night for Agnel Phillip. Of course, they hope that there's some changes through the midseason, but Agnel being impressive now would suggest he's going to be impressive at the end of the year. I guess the only benefit, Josh, would be that he's already going to be in the playoffs, so I guess they'd rather him beat them up again in the regular season finale than the playoff opener. But I think we all know a lot of the names we just chatted to here tonight post-race are going to be in this championship battle for the long haul.
Yeah, I don't think any of those three are going to end up missing the playoffs, of course, unless we see Matt Danson unfortunately get a work schedule that just doesn't work here with it. But looking at those playoff standings, especially leaving this race here of Darlington, still got a long way to go, and we've got a cut line battle that is going to be shaping up as well. It was not a great night for Steve Soa, finishing P16. DeAndre Kane finishes P17. Brett Larson, Pappenau's down there. Jaron Weinmaster, who had a decent amount above the cut line, has a terrible night tonight, finishes P20. Same with Andrew Farinage and Cam Patterson. They do have a long way still to go, as we are only halfway done with this regular season.
And of course, we had referenced it, but the longest race of the calendar is coming up in 2 weeks' time. It is the 200-lap, 300-mile brawl at Charlotte. Again, in the end, it's only an extra pit stop, but those extra added layers of attrition can make things interesting, and we certainly hope that you join us for that one in a couple of weeks' time. Until then, though, that is it for us here tonight from Darlington. On behalf of our entire team at RealSimRacing, RaceSpotTV, and your broadcast team tonight. For Joshua Lee and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Agno Phillip, who's already a 6-time race winner this season. We're back on Monday, May 20th from iRacing's virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the 2024 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series can be found exclusively here on RaceSpotTV. Till next time, good night from Darlington.